Let's be honest, sometimes you look at your photographs and they simply feel boring. You're outside, shooting, trying hard, but when you get back home and look at them, they're just not what you expected. If you experience something like that, these are actually great news. You're in a great spot. And here's why. This phase, when you hate your own work, it's not a failure. It has a name to it. It's so-called creative gap. Every great photographer you admire, actually forget photographer, every artist has gone through something like that. What you're feeling is not a setback. It's a proof that your taste is evolving faster than your skills. It means that you're growing. And if you understand that, you can use it to become better, faster. And of course, the problem is not in your gear, and you don't need to run and buy a new camera or new lens to get less boring photographs. So let's try to dive in it and understand what the creative gap is. That feeling that your work isn't what you want it to be creates this gap between your mind and your abilities that needs to be filled. The gap is between your perception on how your work should look like and how it is in reality. But actually, it's your vehicle for improvement. Realizing that your work doesn't match your vision is the start of growth. You're seeing the gap, you're seeing that space between what you want your work to be and what it currently is. If you're fully satisfied with your work, that would be a place where to start worrying, because comfort is the enemy of growth. And if you're already happy with your work, why getting better? To grow, you need that feeling that your work is boring or not good enough by your own standards. You need to see it yourself, because only you can push yourself forward. You are your own vehicle for success. In fact, this can happen even if you're already a good and accomplished photographer. It can happen at any point in your creative journey. And if it does, it's not a sign to be discouraged or depressed. It's the opposite. It's a slingshot forward. The creative path is a lifelong journey. And like any journey, there are parts you love and parts you want. But don't worry, journey also means movement, and you will have an amazing and joyful moments too. Now imagine two parallel lines. One line is your current level of photography, and the other one is the desired level of photography. Sometimes they're getting closer, sometimes they're getting further away, and that's how it is supposed to be. Things are only bad if these lines merge into one when you feel that there is nothing left to learn. If you feel that photography has nothing more to offer you, then you need to start worrying. Okay, so we acknowledge that this is a good place, that there is a space to grow. So what next? Well, now it's a good time to go and evaluate your own photography and understand what is it exactly that you don't like about it. Is it the packaging, meaning the composition, editing, or the content that feels boring? Let me give you an example from my own journey. There was a period when I was already established photographer. I had good feedback and good following, and people liked my work. That social approval was exciting on one hand, but on the other hand, I felt that I wasn't good enough. And the problem was I didn't understand why. I was just not satisfied with what I'm photographing. What I produced felt repetitive, boring, and generally not so interesting. So I was stuck in that state for a while. I wish there was someone to coach me out of it, but I was alone. And for a long time, I didn't know what exactly to do and what exactly was wrong. Till one day, I literally put some of my work on one side and some of the work that I loved on the other side, and starting to compare and see what is the difference. And it hit me. It became very clear to me in a moment. I loved images with a strong sense of story. Photos that kind of made your wheels in your brain turning and asking questions. But my work on the time was mostly about simplicity. One glance at it and you could figure out what was it about. I mostly shoot travel portraits, sometimes environmental ones. They were technically good, but because many of them were staged, the faces, the emotion, the stories, they just didn't come true to me. And there are only so many headshots that you can take before they'll feel the same. The breaking point came when one of my images became a finalist in Sony World Photography Awards. And it's a big deal. It's a big competition. Being chosen from around 200,000 submissions was something that was supposed to elevate me and make me quite happy. The image was of an Ethiopian girl in Harar, a city known for its colorful walls. And the shot was 100% staged. From the idea to the clothes to the background, everything. And at that moment, when I understood that I got selected as a finalist, at first it was happiness, and then I felt like I swallowed a very bitter pill. I felt empty, like I won the wrong game. It's like I won cheating. At that moment, it became absolutely clear to me, this is not what I want, this is not what I am, and I'm drawn to life stories, and staging photographs felt fake. I didn't want to stage anymore. I wanted to photograph reality. Once that sank in, I already knew what to do. But before we go forward, if you're new to this channel, do subscribe. I share tips for photographers regularly, ideas like this that help you reflect, grow, and just shoot better. So now it was clear to me where I wanted to be, but I was trapped. Most of my following at that time had come from the style I've been shooting for years. So sudden change of direction was hard and probably would impact quite a lot on my following. And there were the thoughts of what if they don't like the new me? And of course they didn't. It was like their favorite rock band suddenly started to rap. At this time, when the algorithms were easier, I would usually get 3,000-4,000 likes per photo. Suddenly I was getting under 1,000 and often very lower. The problem was not only that I was posting completely different work, but it was also that I wasn't very good at that new direction that I wanted to be at. So it was another gap to fill in. For many photographers, that would be a real dilemma. Follow your calling or keep making what people like. What really helped me at that point is that for me it wasn't even a choice. I always treated photography as a hobby and a form of self-expression. Even when it becomes my business, I was still very genuine about it. Being true to myself always mattered more than being a people pleaser. Yes, I had a big drop in engagement, and yes, it took years to become somewhat known again, but this time in the documentary and street photography world. And in the end, it was worth it because inside I felt good about it. I learned to feel good with the whole process, with all its ups and all its downs. And this is the style trap that many photographers fall into. They get known for one thing and they get stuck there for years. They're afraid to disappoint their audience, and by doing that, they actually hurt themselves. And the worst is that the more famous you are, the harder it gets to switch directions. But if you are at a point when you feel bored with your work, you need to move on, regardless of your following. Otherwise, that friction will build up and it will burst out in a most unpleasant way. It might even spill on other areas in your life, and trust me, you don't want that. You want your art and the things that you're doing for your soul to give you pleasure and give you good vibes. You have to let the creative energy flow. Some people might leave, but others, new ones, will find you and connect with the new direction you've chosen. This is just part of the process. This isn't advice for photographers only. It's for anyone who is doing any creative work should follow his heart, always. So now when we know the obstacles, let's see how we go through this gap. First of all, we need to embrace there is a gap. Accept that distance between when you are and when you want to be. And just create. The only way is just to get through. The more you shoot, the more chances you will give yourself to close that gap between your taste and your output. Don't wait for the perfect photo. Just keep creating. And stay curious, experiment with different things until you find that one thing that feels really you and develop it. And accept that part of your work will be imperfect. Most of your early work actually, and honestly some of your later work too, it will not meet your standards. And it's not a failure, that's a feedback. Let it teach you. Quiet that perfectionist voice in your head, the one that wants everything to be perfect. You will improve by doing, but not by overthinking or criticizing every mistake that you're doing. Patience and consistency are far better friends than perfectionism in that case. One thing that I can suggest is also to review your work a little bit later. Let some of your work simmer and sit for a bit. What feels disappointing today might look completely different when you look at it with fresh eyes. Time gives this emotional distance and help you evaluate things clearer. When you don't have that emotional attachment, you will see your images just like they are. I photograph about 6 months in a year. During these months, I only quickly review my work and post something online. The real evaluation comes when I'm home, emotionally detached, and I'm looking at everything slowly and searching for stories that I've missed in my initial quick reviews. Apply Kaizen, improve in micro steps. The Japanese idea of Kaizen means continuous small improvements are nourishing growth. So growing in photography should be like a cycle. Shoot, evaluate, adjust, and repeat. So check where you're failing. Are you missing moments? Why are you missing these moments? Is it your camera technique or you're just not fully present? If it's the technique, fix it by practice. Learn your camera better. If it's your mental focus, Go out alone, put your phone away, and just let yourself get into the zone of the photography process. Are your moments interesting but composition is weak? Well, then refine your structure, learn to compose better and more consciously. If you need help with composition, check out my monthly composition class. If you feel that your photos are technically fine but emotionally flat, slow down. Connect to yourself, to your emotion. Shoot with feeling, not just with your eyes. Consider daily meditation to stay tuned to your inner world. Meditation will benefit other areas of your life, so I recommend considering it regardless of photography. It is important for you to understand that your photography is not about instant perfection. It's about intentional, incremental evolution. The real test of progress is seen with time. Don't obsess over whatever today photos is great. Instead ask, is my work today better than what I was doing 6 months ago? If the answer is yes, even slightly, you're on the right path. You're getting better. And that's how you close that creative gap. That's how you turn boring into breakthrough. So if your photos feel boring, take a breath. You're not broken. You're not falling. You're growing. The gap is a sign that your vision is sharpening and that the work will catch up if you give it a chance. I hope that this was useful and you learned something today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time.